Howdy everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias, and today I'm going to do a video that I should have made a long time ago. Sorry Remshi. I met Remshi at Blade Show in person for the first time, and he got to show me a lot of stuff which I've already made a video on in the past. But today I'm going to give you guys an overview of the thing that started it all, the Production Kuno. And while I have already done a video on the Production Kuno already, this one isn't a pass around. This one I have actually been able to flip over the last month. Remshi did provide this unit for me for free for the purpose of this video, but I do not get to keep it. So I guess saying that he provided it me for free isn't exactly the whole story. He lent me this thing for a month so that I could create a video on it. I believe the actual deal was he told me if I wanted to trade it for my prototype, I could swap them out. I ultimately decided that my prototype has been with me too long. I'm too emotionally attached to it to trade it out for a newer Kuno. But I am excited to give you guys a view into what the Kuno is like. Even though I already have, I think this will be a much better view with everything that I've learned since then. And we'll be doing something similar with this bad boy right here, the Cycloid HD. Because I really have learned a lot since I flipped these things last. So, the Production Kuno retails for, I believe it's $500. I'm actually going to check this just really quickly before I give you guys bullshit information. Where is your store, Remshi? The Kuno you can buy for $499.99, $500 US, and it is in stock. This is the first production model, and this is what you get. The one before was actually anodized, so this will give you a better view into what you will actually be getting, and especially as compared to what my prototype was. So the first thing that you will notice is that his logo is here, and then you have the number 30 serial number on the back here, which didn't exist on my prototype. My prototype was a one of, I think, 3 at the time that it was made, so I can understand why that didn't exist back then. But now you get that updated little serial number. This is number 30, so if you get number 30 in the future, hey, cool. Very cool. And the other biggest change, I would say, cosmetically, besides the pivots, which he's changed to, I actually think it's machine-wise pivots. Don't quote me on that. But is this like stonewash kind of different finish? I wouldn't, again, I wish I actually knew what the actual finish was. These are machined by Machine-Wise, so I would assume it's the same finish that they do to all of their products. It's a tumble of some sort. But it gives it this nice texture, which, I'm going to be honest, I am not a huge fan of, personally, because I am so used to my prototype being essentially satin. You can see I have, maybe you can see I have little tiny machine marks going all the way up. It's shiny, and then the blade is completely, you know, I wouldn't really say satin, but it doesn't have this kind of texture that this does. But I know some people like that, and especially on a blade that is this bland with no hole cutouts or anything like that in such a huge area, I can figure that some people might like that. You can also see that the jeweling on the inside has been refined. It's a much tighter, much more, I don't know, high resolution jeweling than the one that I have. Mine is a more general thing, I guess, but I'm glad that the jeweling is still there. That was something that I remember Remshi was uncertain if he was going to be able to fit into the production models. So to see it still there is, wow, that could not have gone any worse. To see that it's still there is very nice. I enjoy that quite a bit. So besides all of that, what is the flipping like for the Kuno? And really quickly, I guess I didn't think to do this, but let me just give you the full specs of this thing so that we can have you, we can give you that info, because I'm used to the fact that maybe everyone's watched my old videos, but the reality is probably most of you haven't. So the Kuno, 3.2 ounces and is fully titanium. The blade is titanium, the handles are titanium. The only thing that isn't are the washers, but I think even he ships them on titanium washers now. So I guess the only thing that isn't is the bushings. It is a full grade 5 titanium construction, and it's pinsless, which I can tell you, I've had no issues with the handle gap on my unit that I have beaten over the course of the last year. You can see there's tons of marks from it dropping on rocks and concrete and all of that. It hasn't really degraded that much. I know some people don't trust pinsless, but it's been pretty good for me. Light handle bias, he claims, with tapering, the kunai profile. It's a 6-inch handle length, which is much longer than any other typical balisongs. Even if I get something which is known to be a little longer, like the Prisma, this thing still kind of dwarfs it. I guess I should be comparing it to the production one. The Kuno dwarfs even considered to be long balisongs, sorry Dragonite, like the Kuno, or like the Prisma Pro. Kind of ridiculous. It is tumble finish. There we go. There's the actual, and it is made by Machine Wise. The first 6, okay, there were 6 prototypes were machined by a local shop, not Machine Wise. And he's been making these. They've been in stock for a little while now, so they are available if you want to pick one up. But I'm sure your biggest question is, how's the flipping? So, how is the flipping of the production compared to the prototype? If you want to know more detailed thoughts on my thoughts on the prototype, you can go watch the old videos that I made on it. I'm sure they still apply to this day. But the spark notes of it are, it's light, it's long, it's very floaty, and it creates an experience that is unlike any other balisong that I have flipped. It flips extremely smoothly. I really enjoy how it flips. The floatiness allows you to pull off moves that I really don't feel like I should. There was a period of time where I could only do tricks on the Kuno because of how floaty and long it was. Or only some certain tricks on the Kuno. I remember doing a clip on the Kuno and just hitting things in it that I couldn't do up to that point, which nowadays I can do on normal balisongs. But it was a very interesting training tool given that it's metal, but it's still so light. My only real problem with it, and actually before we get into that, enough tip weight somehow, it fans okay, but my only real problem with it is that there was a lot of weight focused at the end of the handles, which created for a very momentum-based experience that could feel a little weird with such long handles. There are definitely periods of time where the Kuno carries too much momentum, and got me into trouble with certain tricks. Even though now that I've gotten used to it, you kind of tame it after a while and it starts to flip really, really well if you learn how to control that. The production version basically addressed that almost perfectly. The end-weighted experience of the handles is not as apparent here. There is still a lot of end weight because this has a completely skeletonized structure and most of the weight is at the end. But it feels much more neutral in its execution. You can actually see, considering how little tip weight is on this thing has an exceptionally flat fan, and it fans very, very well. It's not the greatest fan I've ever felt because at the end of the day, the shape of the blade is still prohibitive to how much tip weight you can fit in there. But it fans so much better than anything like this that you could expect, especially given how poorly I thought that the Swordfish fanned, considering that that is a similar construction and shape, honestly, to something like the Kuno, with even more tip weight because of how the blade is made. As far as flipping goes overall, though, that end weight has been smoothed out. I would really liken this to the original Calico into the new Calico 1.5. My original prototype Calico has a lot of end weight, which means that it carries a ton of momentum, and fanning can be a little weird sometimes, which made it fun, but not exactly the most performant plastic balisong I had ever used, until I got my 1.5, which is actually, I forgot, is cracked at the pivots because of bite handle, but that's okay, it'll survive, which spread out that weight a little bit more and just made it feel a tiny bit more distributed. Still end weighted in the handles with all the weight focused towards the end, but with much better fanning performance and less unpredictable momentum carrying, let's just say. And I would say that that is exactly what's happened here with the production Kuno. It is much more, I wouldn't say much more neutral, but that distribution is just slightly more even. I don't feel as crazy of a hot spot in the end of the handles, and it allows for a still floaty experience, but one that is a little tiny bit less handle biased, which makes flipping this thing far more enjoyable to me, which is one of the reasons that I was a little hesitant to maybe deny the offer to trade out my prototype, because I vastly prefer how the production one flips. But honestly, the change is not so drastic that I consider this to be me losing out entirely, especially since I cosmetically prefer the look of my prototype. Of course, that removal of end weight is going to mean that chaplains are a little less sticky than they were before, but we are talking about a balisong that you had to seriously work at to get to fly off your fingers. The Kuno, you have to really crank it to get it to spin out, whereas the production version, you still have to crank it, but not as much as you did before. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. I think the price is easily the biggest hindrance to the Kuno. While I don't think it's unfair given the materials and everything that Remshi had to go through to design it and get it made and how much that probably cost, I can definitely see that $500 for a pinsless all titanium trainer is something that is going to stop a lot of people at the door. And to that, all I can say is, if that's you, I can't really say anything to change that, you know? $500 is a lot of money. I know a lot of people would prefer getting a live blade at that price, and that's totally understandable. The only case that I could make is that the Kuno provides one of the most unique flipping experiences in my collection, at least. One that genuinely feels different than other balisongs, rather than just tweaks and changes of balisongs based on, oh, this one has more end weight, this one is longer, whatever. This genuinely feels different in almost every single way, and most of Remshi's designs do, because of how unique they are. It's genuinely a treat to flip, and I think if you flipped at a blade show, you know what I mean. Because it's lighter, because it's floatier, and because it's all titanium, it just feels different than most other balisongs do. And it provides a flipping experience that, like I said, is genuinely unique for the price, which, love it or hate it, is what it has to be, or is what it is, because, yeah, I'm not making sense at this point. So, the Kuno, I think, is an incredibly unique balisong, held back by its price, which unfortunately means that not as many people are going to experience it as I wish they could, but that's where Remshi's future designs will hopefully come in, to provide this experience, hopefully at a lower price. I really would hope. But that being said, $500 if you can stomach that, I think you're going to get a genuinely unique flipper, especially if you're a collector who's kind of tired of the standard balisong formula, which I can't necessarily say that I am. Standard balisongs are still crushing it, but being able to go back and forth with the Kuno is very, very nice. I think that's going to do it for this video. Thank you to Remshi for letting me borrow this thing for a few weeks, letting me borrow it longer than I bargained for. Well, I didn't bargain. He said, keep this for a month. The reality of the situation is it's been a little bit longer than a month at this point. So thank you to Remshi for being patient, for letting me use that for this long. And thank you to him for sending out the original prototype to me. I guess that's something I should have mentioned in the beginning of the video. He did send me the original prototype, so that may be something to keep in mind when you're listening to my opinions on this thing. But I genuinely enjoy it. I genuinely have enjoyed it for the time that I've had it, and I think it's a really fun balisong. Whether I would pay $500 for it personally is a little tough, because that is a lot of money. I do recognize that. But yeah, it's fun. I like it. And if you're interested, then go check it out at Remshi's store. I think it's just remshi.com. I have no idea. I don't provide links because I don't want you to think that I'm being sponsored by someone or receiving a cut of the links traffic that you're going through. So if you look up Kuno, I'm sure it can't be that hard to find. Kuno balisong, just use Google. You guys got this, I promise. I've been yapping for way too long. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And I'll see you in the future, I guess, for the cycloids variation of this video. Peace.